Good morning. Good morning, everybody. It is Shabbat Nachamu, the Sabbath of comfort and consolation. We have entered into the 7 weeks of comfort and consolation that the Creator of the universe has designed. The Creator of the universe has designed these 7 weeks for us to get us through the trauma, over the difficult emotional and intellectual difficulties we've been through over the past 3 weeks prior to last week. And so basically we're at a stage of being energized and empowered, awakened to our destiny again, realigned with the plan of the Creator of the universe, and reconnected to our part in it, the one the Creator of the universe has designed for us to engage in and be part of and complete, and our families and our bloodlines and our communities to complete as well, to bring about the great plan of redemption for mankind as a species, bloodline by bloodline and household by household and individual by individual, and to bring about the great restoration of all creation. Hillside to valley, to mountaintop, to ocean floor, to continent, to square inch, to this terra firma of earth, bringing it back to the original Edenic state of beauty and fruitfulness and shalom. Well, wherever you're watching from or wherever you are tuning in from and listening to, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to be able to speak with you on this Sabbath day. I pray that this Sabbath is blessing you in ways that you could not imagine. I pray that your family is being drawn closer together and closer to the Holy One and to His plan for your lives. I pray also that you're finding provision in places maybe you didn't even expect it, where you knew you couldn't have earned it, you didn't earn it, but the Holy One has provided those things for you. I pray you're finding healing, first in your physical body and in your stressful areas of your mind and your psyche, but more so deeply within the neshama, the spirit that the Holy One breathed into you as He breathed into Adam. And every one of us takes that breath of life and receives, along with the putrid air of the earth, the neshama, the spirit of the living God. May that be awakening in you. May there be a strengthening taking place in all aspects of your life. Wherever you're from, drop us a line. Let us know you're with us, that you've joined us, and whatever you wish to ask us or comment to us or just say. Thank you for doing that. All my friends in the Philippines, all my friends in Europe, particularly in Great Britain, all my friends in America, all my friends across the continent, and in Mexico and Canada. Thank you for tuning in, and we bless you and we pray for your nation. We pray for your communities. We pray for your households and your neighborhoods. In all ways. So we have this beautiful treasure today that we will be able to talk about. The treasure that's called Parsha Vaetchanan. Vaetchanan. It's a combination of 3 basic phrases or words in the Hebrew. It starts with Deuteronomy 3, verse 23, and concludes with chapter 7, verse 11. This particular section of Torah, this Parsha, it contains some of the most powerful, moving, motivational aspects of Torah. We are in the book of, the Western world calls it Deuteronomy. The original name, the Hebrew name from the text itself is Devarim. We talked last week, and if you haven't had a chance to review last week's lesson or teaching, I pray you would do so. It's on YouTube and it's also on Facebook Live. And it will introduce you to this book, the book of Devarim, or Deuteronomy, as it's so often called these days, and what it's about, and what it contains, and why it's different than the other 4 books of the Torah, or for that matter, any other book in the Holy Writ, in the Holy Script. So, Devarim, I'm going to go ahead and start visiting with you now about this. I want to talk to you about what this is about. It's about realigning. We are called in this week to reconnect with and come back into alignment with our Holy One's voice, the Creator of the universe's sweet voice, and the words of His voice, but not just who he is, his persona, and also to be regathered into and recommissioned in and realign with his plan, the grand plan of redemption. This is the first week after the destruction, the Churban, that we talk about on the 9th of Av, or Tisha B'Av in the Hebrew mindset. And so we're in this realm of learning how to reconnect. We've had trauma in our lives. We've had challenges. We've had threats. We've hurt. We've had loss. We've suffered loss. We've suffered bereavement. We've suffered abuse and captivity. Now the question is, are we done, or are we still in the game? Are we back, ready to get back on the horse, as it were, or on the bicycle, and jump back into the fray? This is the season of Devarim. To say it's a season of Devarim. We're reading the book of Devarim, but this is a season of this kind of revelation, the kind of revelation that the book of Devarim refers to and includes. Now, you need to understand, this is the last words. This book contains the last words of Moshe to us. This is his magnum opus work. This is his legacy book. He is leaving this behind to inspire us. He's leaving this behind to discipline us and correct us, but more so to realign us with the mission of the King. And nowhere else in the Holy Writ is this done better or more effectively than in this parsha, when we will have things like the Shema passage. Shema Yisrael, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai, Echad. And then we get into the V'ahavta passage. And you are to love the Holy One, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and etc., etc. There's so much to these passages. I'm shorthanding them to you right now. Now, and also we have this instruction about what we're to do with the things he's told us so far. We are to Shema, we are to Shamar, we are to Asa. These are Hebrew verbs. They're usually translated in English as hear or listen or obey for the Shema. Shamar was usually translated as keep, but it means to treasure, to cherish, to embrace, to value, to prioritize, and therefore to carefully guard and keep watch over to make sure they don't get violated or violated in us. And then the third word is asa. The Hebrew verb is asa, and it's usually translated as to do in English. But that word do is so generic it doesn't apply. Really doesn't help us much. To asa means to take raw materials like a craftsman and build those raw materials into something, an idea, to make an idea come to life through our interaction with the raw materials. Well, that's what we're supposed to do with the instructions the Holy One has given. They're the raw materials, and the earth, the things of the earth, the people that we know, the situations we live in, we're to build. What are we to build? We're to build a kingdom of heaven-centered society upon the earth. That is mission. If you want to know about being realigned with mission, I've given you a shorthand version. So we've given these instructions about Shema, Shamar, and Asa, these instructions for living the Creator has given. Moshe is going to open up some more secrets to us and open some more doors to us that we won't maybe have not thought about before as to what's going to give us the impetus to do this. It seems overwhelming. It seems like an ideal that we can't live up to. He's going to give us the keys, the secrets, to be able to reconnect whenever we do fail, whenever we step away, to keep reconnecting to this. And the first one is going to be what in English is called grace, in Hebrew, Chanan. And that's actually the name of the parsha, Vaetchanan. And in English we usually read, and the Lord I pleaded, or I felt to myself on his grace, or something along those lines. But in the Hebrew it says, and unto grace I came. Unto Hanan I came. Well, this is the process, going back. This is our home base. This is like when you're playing hide and seek and you've gone away and you're trying to get back to home base. Home base is Hanan, is grace. He is the person of grace, the persona of grace. He is the eminence of grace. And the Holy One is, and if you don't think that, then you think you're going to, quote, obey the Torah. You're going to obey the instructions. Without the home base connection of grace, you will have difficulty. You will probably cause more trouble than you're going to be of benefit to the world. So this is the idea. This is the legacy book, the magnum opus. And here's the plan. What Moshe's whole goal in this is is to talk to the people on the plains of Moab that are gathered before him on this day. And I'm going to sum it all up in a few words that are found in this parsha 2 or 3 times. That it may be tov with you, that it may be good with you, that it may be well with you, we say in English. But tov means a fountain of life, living and flowing ever, always. A fountain of goodness, like when the Holy One says, and I will let all my goodness, my tov, pass by you. Well, so it may be, that it may be tov with you. Moshe wants it for us. When with your children or your seed forever after you. This is the plan. This is the goal. I hope you're on board. And so if I would say to you, if you can imagine the Messiah holding out his hand to you, a road before you both, but you're standing there looking at him, and all you see is the hand, and the words are saying, will you be coming with us? Will you be coming or not? That is the question that will be pending as we get into Parsha Vaetchanan. So let us do our call to worship. If you will join us, please. If you don't know this, that's okay. Just listen and enjoy, hopefully, and hopefully your spirit will be stirred. Baruch hu Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bakar banu mikol ha'amin. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. And now open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah. For we are but strangers in the earth. Do not hide your commandments from us. Last week we read the opening verse, or the opening phrases of Sefer Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy. And in that, the Holy One introduced to us his preferred medium of divine impetus. In other words, he has this great plan for us. He has this strategy laid out for us. He has choreographed our life with opportunities to fulfill that divine plan, or at least advance that divine plan, as we do something else, which is to foster and the growth of the ecosystem that he's given us of earth. So he has given us the plan, and he has the strategy, but here's how will he cause us to be motivated? How will he cause us to be awakened and energized and activated at different stages of the process? What is his preferred medium of divine impetus? That is what he introduced last week with Parsha Devarim. And he started it this way, Ve'ele ha'devarim. And these are the Devarim. And now I will translate that for you as the buzz-generating, let me read what I've written here. The buzz-generating, spirit-awakening, call to attention and action words. Ve'ele ha'devarim. Those kind of words. These are those kind of words. Asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael. That Moshe spoke to all Israel. And he started with Bamidbar. Ba'arava. And what he's doing is dropping these devarim, these words that have a buzz to them, these words that awaken the spirit, the neshama within you, these words that call it to activate, call to different things. And so he's Bamidbar, and that should bring forth an activation in you. Ba'arava, on the plain. Mo'suf, on the other side, on the opposite side of the Sea of Reeds. But Ein Pa, in the middle of Paran, the place where Ishmael and Hagar and their negative energy was so powerful to it. These are the things that he's awakening. And it goes on and goes on. I won't do that again this week. We did it last week. Again, I commend you to that study. So he's introducing us to his preferred protocol of impetus, where he's going to meet us along the way and then begin to release the energy necessary for us to do the things that he's told us to do, even in the midst of our distractions, even in the midst of our traumas and difficulties that we face. He's going to plant in this world Devarim, and Moshe is his sower that goes forth with the seed. He's sowing them into our lives. That's why we read the Torah every year. and hopefully frequently, and you meditate on the Torah, because in the Torah, particularly more so than ever anywhere else in this book, you will find Devarim, the preferred methodology of the Holy One for the impetus, for the plan. So basically, Devarim are buzzwords of activation. I use the term buzzwords because that's something that's been picked up by the business world, the political world, and so you know what I'm talking about. There's more than buzzwords. Buzzwords of the human language, of the human marketing programs and political campaigns and ideological argumentation realm. Those things are a poor copy, an imitation, as it were, of the Devarim. They have a little bit of the same effect because they move you or they motivate you, but they're not impetus for the plan of the redemption. So they're strategic pre-programmed triggers. The Devarim are strategic pre-programmed triggers. He's laid them like breadcrumbs along your way in order to you find them and you re-energize, reconnect it with where you're going, and that somebody's watching out for you, and that there is a plan afoot. This is the breadcrumb idea, and the idea of the Devarim, and so they activate specific thoughts and emotions in you. That's what they're pre-programmed to trigger: specific kingdom-oriented thoughts and emotions, and ecosystem management protocols, and initiate specific action protocols that are going to further the kingdom. That's what the Devarim do. It's a very powerful thing. But you can't do the fullness of the mitzvot, the commandments as they're called in English, or the mishpatim, the judgments as they're called in English, or the hukim, the ordinances that are mentioned by previously in the previous books, unless you have the impetus and the activation, the empowerment of the Devarim. And so that's why he gives us this book, to give us the Devarim impetus. In human interaction, especially in the political and the commercial realm, as we discussed, buzzwords are terms that have been chosen specifically by their authors to get attention. Often it's a distraction methodology to keep your attention away from whatever it's onto whatever they want to talk to you about. So it's a diversion distraction technique to get attention and to establish short-term credibility. They can use a word, throw out a word like new or improved, and immediately get your credibility. They get your attention, and they assign some level, because all human beings are interested in the new, all human beings are interested in the improved. And it goes on to next gen, you say that, or organic, all the things that the human beings can say to try to generate or they can throw around negative words. But they establish some short-term credibility, they get attention, and they stir up sentiments and emotions in the people. You know, they want you to be sentimental. They want you to be emotional. That's why you hear the word silver bells or tiny or any of that sort of thing, and you get it connected to the ribbon. And by virtue of getting their attention and taking it away from whatever it was on and establishing some short-term credibility and stirring up emotions and sentiments, people can manipulate you. That's what human beings do. That's what the serpent was so good at, and men have followed his example. And they impact both your morale and your behavior, your priority matrix, and your conduct. So that's the way that. The Holy One, however, has programmed things that are much more powerful than buzzwords. He's programmed Devarim into your spirit, into your DNA. He has programmed Torah memories into us, kingdom memories into us that pre-exist our physical bodily lives. We are eternal. He's put eternity in the hearts of man, the writer of Ecclesiastes says. The Holy One has programmed memories of eternal things into us. They are in like our strands of our DNA. They're covenantal DNA strands. And he can activate, the Creator can activate those when he needs to. We can resist that activation, or we can go with it. That's why I asked you at the beginning to configure the idea of the Messiah holding out his hand to you as the road stretches out before you, and him asking, will you be going with, or will you be staying behind? So how does the Holy One activate these pre-programmed eternal memories? How does he stir up and get fire out of the strands of covenantal DNA? How does he activate the kingdom advancing action scripts? Well, he calls us to encounter Devarim, the ones he has left like breadcrumbs in the world. much as sprinkling MSG, monosodium glutamate, on food activates the customer's savoriness taste buds, and that's what MSG does. It just tells the savory taste buds within you to stir up, say something good's coming, get ready, and be excited. And so it stirs that. So much as sprinkling MSG on food activates the customer's savoriness taste buds and allows the flesh and sensuality side of man to experience the umami kick syndrome. You really feel this. This is what Chinese food with MSG does. It causes you wow, and you eat like crazy, you eat like a dog, because it's giving you an umami kick and activating it. That's sort of how Devarim work, except for in a much more pure spiritual way. Devarim awaken and activate the neshama breath of God in a man. They enhance his awareness and appreciation of divine impetus, of the urgency of the kingdom, of the strategy of the king, of the inspiration of the Ruach, of the Spirit, and of the energy of the Mashiach and of his kingdom's plan. This is what the Devarim do. So I want you to get a picture in your mind if you've ever seen the movie E.T. And at one particular stage near the end of the movie, E.T. is leaving and going back to his home, but he tells Elliot, the young boy who has become his companion and friend, it's all just a fantasy. But he reaches out and he puts his finger, which is light, got light on it, on his heart, on his chest, and he says, "I'll be right here," pointing to Elliot's heart. Now, I want you to see that picture. Think of Devarim as the Holy One's finger on your chest, saying, "I'll be right here." It's an inspiration. It's an empowerment. It's a confidence builder. It's a tenderizer. It's a joy. It's a delight. It's giving you the strength and the hope to carry on, because you'll be right here. This is what the Devarim do. When you hear the Holy One's Devarim, as Moshe has laid them out for us in this book, you begin to feel that finger on your chest saying, "I'll be right here." You see, the Holy One doesn't appear in form. He doesn't stay with us in the column or the pillar of the fire and cloud anymore. He's not in his manifest glory in the temple. We've talked about how that season has come to a close, at least for now. But instead, where he is his finger in our heart. And how does he activate that sense of that scene in our mind? With his Devarim. The presence of the Holy One is encoded in his Devarim. All right, the world's politicians and puppet masters do things with buzzwords, but the Holy One does things instead with Devarim. Now I want to move a little forward and get to what happened last week. Last week, Moshe gave an introductory course to us in Devarim. It's just almost 3 chapters worth of discussion of bringing us into consciousness of what Devarim are and how they impact us. He introduced us to Devarim, though, at its most basic levels. If you remember back whenever we were in the book of Leviticus, the Holy One began to introduce the concept to us, awaken us, and educate us on the process of what is clean and unclean. Tameh, unclean, tahor, clean. And he began to introduce it at the very basic level. He talks about animals and the way animals live. If an animal is like a pig or a dog, you understand that kind of behavior, that kind of nature begins to show you there's something that is going toward the destructive, toward the negative, toward the just cleaning up the messes of this world, or causing them, as opposed to fixing them. So you see the difference. He introduced it at the basic level of animals. Then he went forward into human tumah, to uncleanness and cleanness, and he went forward all the way into spiritual cleanness and uncleanness. Now, that's how we got prepared to have the manifest presence of the Holy One. He had to get us acclimated to the concept of kedusha, holiness, which is the opposite of uncleanness. Now he did that. That's how he did that with the concept of tahor and of kedusha. Now he's going to introduce us in the same way through gradual acclimation to the idea of the devarim impetus. He first introduced what I call the place name devarim. I told you the midbar. He said ba'arava, Horeb, Paran, Mol Suf, Kadesh Barnea, Heshbon, Ashtaroth. These are the place name devarim. In certain place names, we talked about last week, Woodstock in American history, or Valley Forge. You mentioned just place names, and they have this buzz to them. They have this power to them that activates something in you, a sentiment in the lowest form, but in the spiritual realm, an activation of a sense of confidence. I'm right here, Elliot. I'll be right here. And then he introduced the second phase before he got to the end of Parsha Devarim. He introduced group name Devarim. There are certain people whose names are mentioned that inspire, awaken the spirit, the neshama in us. We talk about Mashiach. Mashiach is the ultimate one. We talk about Moshe. And then on the negative side, we have some others. We have the Amorites. You hear the word, the Amorites, the Emori in Hebrew, or the Anakim, and Sihon, and Og, and you begin to realize, and Korach, and you see, these are the ways in which he drops these words that he knows have memory attached to them, kingdom memory attached to them, that even though you weren't there, they are as real to you as if you were, because you were there in the spiritual realm, you were not there in the physical realm. That was this last week. We got the basic introduction to how Devarim work. Place name Devarim, then built upon that person or group name Devarim. Well, now we're going to get another level. In Parsha Vaetchanan, the level of Devarim that we're introduced to, activators that we're introduced to, and go up in quality, to divine spark activating verbs, Hebrew verbs that activate divine sparks. Obviously, the first one is Shema. Shema Yisrael. When you hear the word Shema, even the saying of it, Shema, it has this vibration effect to it. It's more than just the words. People in English try to translate it. What does it mean, listen? Does it mean hear? Does it mean obey? It's translated that way in all those ways in the King James Version, but it doesn't mean any of those things. It has this awakening, spirit awakening context to it. Shema Yisrael. And you're supposed to not just respond in your brain or in your flesh, but there's the neshama in you is, yes, I'm awake. I'm here. I know you're right here, Holy One. Shema Yisrael, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai, Echad. So Shema is the first of these activation verbs. And we're going to see the word Shema multiple times in this parsha and in the times to come, because this is one of the most important activators, Devarim, impetus givers of the world. Shema, it's the Hebrew. And then we get Shamar, treasure, cherish, and therefore guard. Asa, build, make things out of the raw materials and form it into the shape that shows the divine plan. Bo, go, movement. Allah, arise, ascend. Yarash, build a legacy. Build something that is an inheritance for generations to come. Ra'ah, vision, behold. Yada, understand, know, intimately, connect with on a connective basis. Shuv, turn to Him, turn away from the world, turn away from the things of the world, turn away from the behaviors of the world. And shuv, this is another one. It's often called turn, or sometimes called repent. Ahav is going to be introduced to us as a devarim, as a kingdom activation word. Ahav, love. Aman, trust, in the sense of actually taking on a life force and sheltering it and nurturing it. Zachar, bring to the forefront of your mind. Remember, in English it would be. Lamad, teach, demonstrate by model and example and speech and behavior, things that are the thing. Lamad, teach. Teach them faithfully to your children, it is going to say. There are so many. Karab, approach, draw near. Amad, stand in waiting to serve. Shaka, worship, bow yourself before me. These are some of the verbs that are going to be used that are divine spark activators, that are devarim. And these words you will encounter over and over again. And when you encounter them, either in Holy Writ or hopefully in godly conversations, they will begin to stir you, and you will feel that finger upon your heart saying, I'll be right here. Elliot. And then that beyond the activation verbs or the activation nouns. So we get the highest level of activation nouns. And one of those is, the first one is Hanan, or we talked about it. In English, it's often called grace. And then the next things you're going to see are things like mitzvot. Mitzvah is a singular, mitzvot is a plural. English, it's usually translated strangely as commandment or commandments. Mitzvot. But these are activation nouns at the highest level that must be based in something previously. And that includes the grace. The grace must come before the mitzvah. The sensation, the foundation in grace must come before you begin to encounter the mitzvah. Because you'll always feel like you failed the mitzvah. But you always feel like you can be rehabilitated if you know the grace, the Hanan. So we got the mitzvot. We have hukim being activation words, mishpatim, judgments. Hukim meaning ordinances in English, we call it. Mishpatim being judgments in English, or justice statements in English. Then there's others, edut, which are testimonies, derek, the way, chokhmah, wisdom, bina, understanding, different things that are involved. Esh, fire. These are things that are nouns that activate you. They should begin to awaken things in your spiritual DNA, in that eternity that the Holy One placed in you, in the heart of man, as it talks about in Ecclesiastes. These are the things that he's using. This is so powerful to give us an impetus. We are not left alone down here. You know, the Holy One says that the steps of a righteous man are ordered by the Holy One. How does he order them? He plants devarim, activators, instigators along the way, like breadcrumbs. The Holy One says, you know, that his word is a light unto our path. This light, the energy, the luminance are in the devarim. The light is in the word. In your entry of your word brings light and understanding to all. All right. So this introduction of devarim is designed to awaken in us certain things. Ecosystem management wisdom. The wisdom to be able to run this ecosystem, or at least not to run it down, at least not to ruin it, at least to keep it alive for another generation, to keep it moving. And our part of the ecosystem in particular, to make it thrive as best as possible. That's the purpose of the devarim. First purpose. Second purpose is to awaken in us the thing that oils the universe, that oils humanity, and it's so shallow, and that's love. I can't emphasize it. That's just why the Vaetchanan section is in this. And you are to love the Holy One, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. And then, you know, all this. The love aspect is what holds, is the glue that holds everything together. Out of the love flows mercy, and that is so powerful and changes things. Kindness, out of the love flows mercy, kindness, compassion. And then out of that flows a sense of identity, awareness. You don't have to pretend to be somebody else or try to be somebody else. You don't want to be somebody. You don't have to try to attract attention. You don't have to try to get cred where you don't. You are who you are, and you are who you are in the kingdom. And you have full confidence to you are. This identity awareness is what comes from the devarim. And also, in addition to identity awareness, grand plan, mission, focus. Understand that what you're here is not about little fights, little battles that we fight day to day. Who's winning the political battle? Who's making the news? That's not the issue. The issue is what can we do in our limited time here, with our limited resources that we have, which are actually not so limited at all. How can we do to enhance and advance the mission of grand redemption? And how can we stay on course with our destiny, our bloodline's destiny, our nation's destiny, and creation's destiny as well? All right. So that's why he's introduced us to the love language. This is the Vahavda and all the instructions about what love looks like, shemaing, shemaring, and asaying the covenant, the words, the instructions, the mitzvot, the mishpatim, and the hukim. We thought love was some kind of emotion we felt. No, he's defining love in such a way as it is a motivation moved by mercy received, kindness received, compassion received, and identity awareness and mission focus to actually release the heart of the Holy One over people and return to Him a little bit of the wisdom, of the gravitas that we have received. Now, the stunner of this is that this is not new. The Va'ahabda is not new. The idea of loving God, loving the deity, loving the creator of the universe seems sort of foreign to us unless we put an emotional attachment to it. But it's nothing new. In Exodus 26, when He first spoke to us from the mountain on Sinai, one of the things He said was that, I am who I am, and He says, I maintain covenant faithfulness to those who, there's the key word, there's the devar, those who love me. I maintain covenant faithfulness through generations to those who love me. And then He says how to do it. By shemaring my mitzvot, by treasuring and cherishing and valuing and prioritizing and carefully guarding and keeping watch over my instructions for living, my places where I say I'll be with you and let's do this together, not you do it separately to please me or earn something from me. No, let's walk together. This is what I'm doing, join me in doing it. That's the way. That's where we first encountered the idea of God's love language, being the Torah, being the mitzvot in mishpatim and hukim of Torah. And of course, the Va'ahabda told us that our purpose is to love Him. Okay, now let's talk about the mission focus, because this parsha is largely about the mission. In chapter 4 of Deuteronomy, of Devarim, it begins, Shema Yisrael, which there's several Shema Yisraels. This is before we get the big Shema Yisrael in chapter 6 that everybody knows and we recite 3 times a day, and that should stir us and motivate us and bring our covenant DNA to life every time. This Shema Yisrael says, Shema Yisrael, Shema the Chukim and the Mishpatim, which I teach, Lamad, you to observe, Asa. Now, Israel, Shema what? Shema the Hukim and the Mishpatim, the ordinances and the judgment laws that I have given you, that I'm teaching you, Moshe would say, that I'm lamading you to what? To do what with? To build, to asa, to form like the raw material of this world into a kingdom of heaven-centered society. O Israel, Shema the Hukim and the Mishpatim, I teach you. And he says, now here's some limitations on it. So here's what you're to do is Shema. Now do not do this. Do not add to. Don't make it more than it is. Don't make up your own stuff and add it in there. Don't come up with ideas and theologies and creeds and throw all that stuff into it. Just let my words be the impetus. Don't add to the Hukim and Mishpatim and Mitzvah Torah. And don't also subtract from it. Don't take away from it. Don't eliminate. Don't say certain things are done away with. Make sure you understand it is full, it is powerful, it is the energy pods, it is the ways in which I've given you impetus. It is not some sort of a strategic means of salvation. What it is a directive to keep you online, on task, on target, on mission, on budget, moving forward with a grand plan of redemption and having your part in it. This, he says, goes on to say in the first part of Deuteronomy 4, is this is your wisdom, chokhmah. This is one of those buzzwords, one of those kingdom buzzwords programmed DNA into your covenant DNA, that you will be hungry for wisdom, for chokhmah. This is your wisdom, he says, chokhmah, and your understanding, Hebrew binah. This is why you know how things fit together, make it all mean something and make some sense to you. This is your wisdom. What is it? What is it? Shemaing the Hukim and the Mishpatim and the Mitzvot of Torah. This is your wisdom. If you want to be wise, Shema the Hukim and the Mishpatim and the Mitzvot of Torah that the Moshe teaches, and don't add to it and don't subtract. If you want to understand how the world works and what your part in it is and what the ultimate plan of redemption is, get it. Shema, the Hukim, and the Mishpatim that the Holy One has Moshe teach us. And it says, know this day, in the same, and shuv, here's that word, turn. Shuv, let your heart be turned, churning, and turning towards the Holy One. It's like his fingers on your heart. Know this day, and shuv in your heart, that the Holy One himself is Elohim, the one who created the universe. Who created the heavens above and on the earth beneath. He is Ein Od, the only one. Now he is your all. He is everything to you. He's going to say later he is Echad. Here it says he's Ein Od. The idea from these Hebrew phrases, they're buzzwords. They're not intellectual concepts. They're not numerology of one or only one. They are a sense of how important the creator of the universe is and how much of an integral part of this universe he has made himself, and how you are to connect with that integral part. He is the plan. There is no intellectual plan. He is the plan. His way is the way, and there is none other. All right. The human being and the Holy One operate on different, often discordant frequencies and rhythms. That's what we know. Sometimes we don't listen to man rather than to the Holy One. This happened at Sinai. The people said, we can't listen to the Holy One's voice anymore, or we'll die. They were wrong, but nevertheless they felt this way. There's a human failure, a weakness that wants that. So we're operating on different frequencies that are often discordant. Different rhythms that are not in tune. We have different thoughts and perspectives and visions and goals, different dreams and priorities than the Holy One does. And how does he reconnect them with us with him? He reconnects us with his dreams and goals and visions and frequencies and rhythms through the Devarim. He wants us to learn the secrets of life by activation, by operation. He wants to give us life, health, and peace. He's teaching us how to do that. All right. So we talk about the mission. The mission has not been a secret from the beginning, right? When he created man, the creator of the universe said, let us make man in our own cell. T-Z-E-L would be the way you transliterate that in English. And usually it's translated as image, but that's really it's really shade or shadow. Let us make man in shadow, in the Elohim shadow. In other words, to move when we move, to do what we do, to project what we project, to say what we say. This is the idea of a shadow. What a shadow does to you, we're supposed to do that to the Holy One. What your shadow does to you, to reflect what you are, what size you are, what you look like, how you behave, how you move, how your speed, your rhythms. We're supposed to do that with the Holy One. So that's the first part of the mission. He then said to be fruitful and multiply, to expand our influence in the world, and therefore to take dominion. Right? This is all in Genesis 1, from the beginning statement of what man's mission is. And then he clarifies it later with regard to make things fruitful. That's what we're supposed to do, to make this ecosystem work well. And then he gets into chapter 12, he talks to Avram, and he begins to say, now I'm going to put a certain group of people on this to be a dividing line, to be the line, the plumb line between that which is blessing and that which is not blessing, that which is calling the opposite, that brings the hunger for the prior. If you think about what the quote, the curse means, is the desire you to want the blessing, because otherwise you wouldn't want the blessing. You have to see the opposite. So that's he set this up. So the Holy One set up the children of Israel, children of Avraham, the seed of Avraham, to be this plumb line in the world. And operations on this side, on the children of Israel side, are designed, the Bnei Israel side, are designed to be the kingdom of priests, a holy nation, a model people that set up on a hill, a shining light, a beacon, a light to the Gentiles that are on the other side because they have chosen not to align with the blessings of the Holy One. Well, that's generally the plan. Now, he's told us, okay, now you over here on this side, we need to separate and keep yourself separate from the profane and the unclean, because you see, we're drawing the energy, the Kedusha energy, has to be empowered and flowing so that we can draw people from the darkness into the light. These are the things that are said. So that's the mission. Now, this is clarifying the mission. The mission has to do with a piece of property. So he's going to keep saying things like that. You will go into the land, that you will live long in the land. What land? The land of milk and honey. That's also a buzz phrase, a Devarim phrase. When you hear the words land of milk and honey, it means more than just a land that actually has some milk or has some honey. No, there's something powerful awakened in your spirit. Because you see, this is the land we're supposed to be connected with, affiliated with, attached to, because that's where we are. That's like I've said before, it's the strategic beachhead of the kingdom, where the beginning point and the flow point out of which the invasion of earth by the forces, the kingdom of heaven, into the earth, and the restoration of creation takes place through this prism or this portal of the land of Israel, this land of milk and honey. So he said, I want you to go in, and I want you to live there long, oh, she's going to say. And here you do this, and always do the mitzvot, the mishpatim, and the hukim, the laws, the instructions, the commandments, the ordinances, and the judgments of the Holy One in that place. Now, how does this all start? It all starts with the grounding in grace. The conversation that begins the whole story is found in Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 23. And it reads as follows, in the King James, or New King James Version. It says in the New King James, then I pleaded with the Holy One. The Hebrew phrase that is so translated is Vaetchanan, unto the grace I came. Saying, O Lord God, Adonai Elohim, you have begun to show your servant your greatness, and your mighty hand. For what God is there in heaven or on earth who can do anything like your works and your mighty deeds? Now, all these phrases, by the way, are designed to awaken your spirit. Mighty deeds. Gevarut in Hebrew. Gevarut. And your works, your ma'asim, those things are the works of your hands. These things should begin to stir things in you right now as we're talking. What are the works of his hands? Oh, to be attached to the works of his hands. To see the evidences of his greatness, of his gavarut. Oh, these are the great things. He says, now I pray. Na in the Hebrew, which it's translated in English as I pray, but it just means now, therefore, na. Let me cross over, abar. Let me be a Hebrew. Let me cross over and see, behold, the good land, beyond the Jordan, Now, the Jordan River is a devar. It is a stirring, something that stirs your soul. The Jordan. When I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. Okay, now I'm not going to sing the rest of that song. That's spiritual, but I will tell you that when you hear the word Jordan, not the land, the nation of modern Jordan, I think they picked that for that reason. But the Jordan in Hebrew, the Jordan in English, is this. It's crossing over. It's this place of crossing over into the spiritual realm. It's the awakening of your spirit to do that, to give you the impetus. He says, now, I pray, let me cross over and see the good land beyond the Jordan, those pleasant mountains and that Lebanon. But the Holy One was off with me on your account. Off, meaning he was warning me. He was giving me negative instructions. And would not shema me and what I wanted. So the Lord said to me, Ravlach, enough of that. Speak no more to me of this matter, but go up. And so the Holy One never leaves it with a no. He always says, but. Go up to the top of Pisgah, which is a twin peaks over the mountain overlooking the Jordan Rift Valley on the Jordan side. And lift up your eyes toward the west and the north and the south and the east, and behold it. Behold. When you hear the words behold, I hope you hear the sense of the power of the Holy One. Behold it, for you will not cross over the Jordan, but Zavah, instruct, direct Yehoshua, and encourage him. This is one of those Devarim of person names. Yehoshua is a name. It's going to be the base of the name Yeshua, from which the Messiah will come. Yehoshua, and encourage him and strengthen him, for he will go over before this people, and he will cause them to yarash, to inherit, to make a heritage, to make an estate of, to build forth a legacy in this land before you, which you see. Okay, so that's how it all starts. Do you understand that Moshe comes to grace? You say, wait a minute, I thought grace was like a New Testament doctrine or something, and maybe just something that, Yeshua, Jesus, or whatever you want to call him, the Messiah guy, he brought into the world. Before that, it was just law and tough. No, this Moshe knew. Moshe had a history, as a matter of fact. As a matter of fact, if you recall, you have to get to the Hebrew words to understand this. But when Moshe, after the golden calf, Moshe actually had this long period of recovery. But the nation had the recovery. He had the period of recovery. But at a certain point, he comes and he says to the Holy One, he says, if I have found, in English, if I found favor in your sight, look at the Hebrew. It's grace. It's chanan. If I found this chet nun construct in your eyes, well, Moshe knew it. He had a previous experience with it. And then, whenever the Holy One begins to respond back, he says, "Now, if I found chanan, and he knows he has. Moshe knows grace. He knows this is the foundation of everything. So he says, now then show me your glory. Teach me your ways and show me your glory." That's what he says. And then the response of the Holy One to him at that time was, "I will be gracious to whom I am gracious. I will show the Hanan to whom." You see, this is something that's well established in the Torah, well established in the covenant. It is an essential part of covenant. That there is an understanding on the part of the superior partner in the covenant that the inferior partner will not do everything perfectly, will make sometimes critically horrible mistakes. Now, for the sake of the covenant, however, and for the sake of the relationship, and for the sake of the goals of the covenant, there is a level of grace that is afforded, a level of favor beyond what is needed or what is earned to be able to establish the purpose of the covenant. That's what Moshe relied upon. That's what he called upon in Deuteronomy 3. That's what he called upon in Exodus 33. Now, it's not just Moshe, though. It goes back even further. It goes way, way back. You see, the idea of grace was introduced with Noah. And Noah found grace in the eyes of the Holy One, and that demonstrates that though mankind, every thought of his thought was evil, even from the beginning, every evil intent, he found something in Noah for the sake of his covenant. This wasn't just a matter of affection for Noah. This was a matter of the plan and about seeing someone who would be able to be nurtured and cultivated to be able to serve the purposes of the plan and to be a friend of the Holy One in the process. It didn't just end with Noah. In Abraham's situation, Abraham says, if I have found favor, if I found what? Grace. If I have found grace in your sight, then tarry with me. Do not pass your servant by. This is Genesis 18, verse 3, when the visitation of the Holy One came. And Abraham goes out in the heat of the day and falls on his face and says to the visiting personnel from the heaven, he says, do not pass your servant by if I have found Hanan, if I have found grace in your sight. Same thing with regard to Yaakov. Yaakov in Genesis 33, 5, 6, and 11, and other verses in this process. He understood grace. Joseph understood grace. And the brothers of Joseph understood grace. Genesis 45, verse 29. There are references to this. Now, this is a well-established part, a necessary, essential foundation of the covenant, of the mitzvot, of the mishpatim. Don't think you can, by any means, live this covenant life by virtue of your own strength, your own energy. You must have the empowerment of grace, the empowerment of the favor of God, recognizing the long-term goal is more important than the failure that you have just committed. That will give you a sense of identity, a sense of hope, a sense of He's right here. Well, the Holy One is right there, beloved. I pray that He is touching your heart right now. Shabbat Shalom. See you next week.